Thumbnails are one of the most important things in your video. A good thumbnail can make or break a video, and that's why it's super important to make sure you're putting your best foot forward when it comes down to it. In today's video, we're going to be showing you guys everything you need to know on how to make a good thumbnail and things to avoid along the way. How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to the Streamloots channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. We're a little bit more festive. It is October, which means spooky season is on. With that being said, in today's video, we are going to be talking about thumbnails. You guys may know that I have my very own YouTube channel as well, with over 100,000 subscribers, and being in the game so long, I know one thing for sure, and that's thumbnails is super duper important. As mentioned in the intro, this can make or break a video, and there's a few things that you could follow to make sure you have a great thumbnail for your video. So before we even get into how to make the thumbnail, here are the do's and don'ts when it comes down to making thumbnails. The best thing to do when trying to imagine a thumbnail is think about yourself as a viewer. What would you click on? Some of the most things that are eye-catching are big bulky text that you can easily read, sometimes a more bright or saturated image that's easy to click on, and outlines to make sure that things that you're talking about are highlighted. It's also nice to get some branding in there to know exactly what you're talking about, whether that's a game or a company, whatever it is. And that is pretty much how you make some good eye-catching thumbnails. The rest, you just add in a little bit of details and pizzazz, and that's pretty much it. The don'ts or thumbnails are pretty much the opposite of all of that. You don't want a lot of bulky text going around, especially the smaller ones, because you got to remember, a lot of people are on their mobile devices. They won't be able to read anything. You also want to avoid putting anything in the bottom right-hand corner, as most of the time of the video will cover that information, so don't put anything important there. And make sure you have a subject, something that people can look at and visually imagine what the video is going to be about. So with all of that in mind, it's time to actually go under the hood and start creating our very own thumbnail in about 5 minutes. Let's jump on into it. Alrighty, so here we are. We are actually using Photoshop, but there are tons of different programs that you can use online for free to make your thumbnails. Photoshop is just the easiest way, but if you're using anything else, you can still follow along what we're going to be showing you. So the first thing you want to do is to go to File and New, and then you want to get your thumbnail going. The standard size for thumbnails are 1920 by 1080. Some people use smaller, some people use larger. It really depends. This is just your standard HD image that you're going to be getting. Alrighty, so once everything is up, it is time to make that thumbnail. The first thing that you're going to need is a background. This is something that could be in your game, whatever it is, a wallpaper, anything that's free to use online and copyright free. Look for a nice image. It doesn't have to be super detailed or anything like that. You just want a nice filler image to go in the background. So I'm going to use a Dead by Daylight image, as I'm a Dead by Daylight content creator. This is their teaser image of their Mount Ormond map, so it's pretty nice. And all you need to do once you have your actual image in here is go to Filter and Blur. You can then use any type of blur. I personally prefer the radical blur, but you can use anything you like. You can use the regular blurs that they have. We'll use the radical blur for this example. We'll set it to something like 4, and you can see everything is now all rounded off. You can't really see too much, and you have a nice little background to go. From here, create a new layer in the bottom right-hand corner, and what we're going to do is use the gradient tool on the left-hand side, and Photoshop shows you a really nice image, essentially, of what this does. And you can set your color to whatever you want. If you want it to a blue, you can create this yourself and just go from end to end. If you don't like the color, you can simply change it. We'll change it in this instance. Now we have a nice darker blue. And what you're going to do is change the compositing mode and pretty much set it to something that looks really nice. Whatever you think looks the best. Remember, you want to make sure that the colors itself look good as well. You don't want anything too bright. You don't want anything too dark. You just want it to look pretty nice. Now, I personally like the way it looks in color dodge. You can see there's a little bit darkness on the left, brightness on the right. We'll just change the opacity so it goes down a little bit so it's not so much in your face and super duper bright. Now we have ourselves a nice little background that we can work with. So now that you have your actual background going, it's time to get the main juices of the thumbnail going. This is when you're going to put a screenshot of yourself or maybe a character, whatever is in your game, whatever your video is about. In my example, I'm going to use a Dead by Daylight render of Pinhead. Again, you need to use your own assets, whatever you have available. And once you have it in there, you can now adjust it to whatever you like. You want to make sure that things, again, are big enough for everyone to see. So in this example, I think it's a little bit too small, so I'm going to press Control T. You can also go on the top and click on Edit and go to free transform. From here, all you need to do is to adjust the size of this. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to move Mr. Pinhead to be more over here. So you can actually see his little box. You can see him a little bit more clearer, and we're going to give him a little bit of a rotation so that way he fills up the bottom right-hand corner. So now that we have that actually there, we need to make sure that he's separated from the background. So the background is the background, and we can actually see the main focus of what's going on. So what we do is double click on this layer and simply add in a drop shadow. You can see the black around as a shadow. You can change the spread of it, the distance of it, whatever you like, make it more adjusting to whatever your images are. And then we're also going to add an outer glow. I like the white outer glows because it makes it a lot easier for people to see. And then I'm also going to reduce the drop shadow a little bit so it's not as bright. And now we have ourselves a nice image. You can also add a stroke if you really want to make your thing stand out. Personally, I don't like doing that unless it's on text, but if you really need to, like in this example, to make sure it stands out, this is pretty good. Now is when you can make any adjustments to your background. Let's say you don't like the color dodge and you want it to be a little bit more dark. You can make it a little bit more dark and mysterious. You want to adjust it to be just more subtle. You can do that too. Whatever you really like, you can make for your thumbnail. Make sure the colors work, especially when you have your main images in the front. It's a lot easier to figure out what you want to do in the background. So I'm going to make some changes myself. I'm going to go a little bit darker. We're going to use the overlay one, and now we can actually fully see our image. Now what we're going to do is get some text rolling in there. Remember, you want your text to be big and visible as we mentioned. So we're going to go on the left-hand side, click on the T, click it in the middle, and then type in whatever we want. So this is about Pinhead. So we're going to put Pinhead, and then we're going to go into the bottom and type in gameplay. So that's what our video is going to be about. We're going to press Ctrl T, make this a lot bigger so people can actually see. Now that we have it a lot bigger, we can go ahead, double click on the layer again, and then we're going to just create a color overlay. We can change that to white. So again, it's more visible and legible to the people that are looking at the video. We can then even add an outer glow, make it a bit smaller if we want, turn the opacity down so we can actually read it, and maybe even drop in a drop shadow there. And we can make it a little bit more bold so you can actually see what's going on. What we're going to do now to make the text look a little bit more eye-catching and popping, we can right-click on this and click on the warp effect. So what the warp effect is actually going to do is make it so that whatever you click on, it's what it's going to do. So if we click on arch, and then we set that to maybe 5, we can now see that there's an arch in our text, so it's not as flat as it was before. You can actually see what's going on. What we're going to do now is on the top of the Pinhead gameplay, we're going to put in Dead by Daylight in a bit of smaller text, and we can also change what this is going to say, or the font, I should say, what the font is going to be like. So we are going to highlight the font so it creates a little bit of separation from what we have. We're going to use one of these nicer ones here. I like these skinny fonts, especially to contrast the bolden ones. Again, we'll just add in that drop shadow. We can make it a lot more smaller since it's a smaller text. Add in that outer glow, and then again, create our color overlay. Press Ctrl T and make it smaller so it goes right above. And then we can use our warp text again, add in an arch. Again, you don't need to do this, but it creates a little bit more life, and I personally like doing it. And we can add it in. So now we can see Dead by Daylight Pinhead gameplay. You see Pinhead on the right-hand corner. Now there's a little bit of extra things that you could do to spice this up a little. Let's say you want to get in your very own logo in there, or you want to put a little bit of more pizzazz on the thumbnail. So what we do, we create another layer. So we're going to use the rectangle tool, and all we're going to do is drag this all the way over. Once we have that, we're going to click on the eraser tool on the left-hand side. We're going to click right here. It's going to give us this prompt. We're just going to click on OK, and we can adjust the side of our brush. You can do that by clicking on the top where the actual eraser is and increasing the size to your liking. You can also use Alt on the keyboard. We're also going to turn the hardness up, and what we're going to do essentially is just cut this in an angle. You can also use some other images or whatever really helps you, but I personally just like doing it this way because it's much more fun. We just zoom out a bunch, go into the corner, and give it a nice little crop. Once we do that, we can just press Ctrl T or go to Edit at the top and Free Transform. And then we just drag this all the way to the left like so, drag it down a little bit, maybe pull it back this way some more. And once we do that, we now have ourselves a nice little cutting edge on the corner. So this is going to give a little bit more amplification to your thumbnail. You can just go ahead and create a color overlay. We can set this to a lighter blue, something that will make this a little bit more eye-catching, essentially. Then we can add a drop shadow and an outer glow to help with that. And then in the bottom left, you can put your logo or whatever exactly you need. We're going to use the Streamloots logo, adjust it to the correct size, like so. Once we have that in there, all we need to do is to change on the color. So on the right-hand side, you double-click on your layer again, and you click on your color overlay, and you set that to the proper color overlay that you want. For that, we'll set white. So now people know, and we can also add a drop shadow to make sure it shows, make it a little bit more small so it's a little more subtle. And there we go. Just like that, we have ourselves a nice, beautiful thumbnail. We have exactly what you need. So when you're looking at this from a distance, you can see that it says Pinhead Gameplay. You can see the Streamloots logo in the bottom left-hand corner, and you know exactly what this is about. Now, if you're still not happy, if the colors are a little bit off, there's a lot of other things you can do. For example, this is a little bit more advanced. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the contrast settings. What you can do is to click on the hue and saturation. You can turn the saturation up so the colors are a lot more vibrant. You can also shift around the hue, but I wouldn't recommend doing that especially if you're working with your own face. And once you have that, you can also click on this again. Click on the brightness and contrast. You can increase the brightness so the actual thumbnail is a lot more bright, and then mess with the contrast so you can get more contrast. And now the thumbnail is a lot more bright. Be careful with this though, because some things might look a little bit more off-putting, but it definitely does amplify the images a little bit more. If you have images like this with the pinhead render, you want to make it a little bit more bright, all you need to do is to go on color overlay, set it to white, and all you do is to go onto the soft light one, and then change the opacity a little bit more down. There's the before, there's the after. You can see that the image is much more bright, and from a distance, you will be able to recognize the thumbnail a lot easier. And finally, a nice little thing that I like doing is to dragging and dropping some free to use space nebulas, whatever the color of your thumbnail mainly is. I like to drag and drop that on the background of everything. You can also put it over your actual image. And what you do is you change the compositing mode, and you just go down the list of the compositing mode until something looks a little bit eye-catching. Like, for example, I like the screen overlay, and then from here, I click on the eraser tool. We click on OK. You make this a little bit bigger, turn the hardness all the way down, and what you do is you just tap it on your actual image, and you can leave it in some spots. You can also do this on the text to make sure that the text is legible. You can make this a little bit more small, go around the text so you make sure that everyone can see the text. And now you have a lot more particle effects in your background. Here's the before, here's the after. You can now see there's a lot more things going on, and it looks quite well. And just like that, you have created yourself a very easy to make thumbnail. You put your background in, your main subject, your text, and any branding and logoing, and then you can just fine-tune everything. You can change the colors from here if you like. Let's say you don't like the blue, you don't like the way the blue looks. All you need to do is to go on everything, you click on color overlay, and you just basically change that into the hue section, and then change that into whatever other color you want. Let's say you want it red, we can pop that in to be red, and then on the bottom, we can also change that little overlay that we created. But my friends, that is pretty much it. That is how you make yourself an awesome thumbnail in Photoshop. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know if you have any questions down below. I'm more than willing to help. And that is going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy the tutorial. Make sure you guys do join the Streamloots Discord as well, where we'll also be answering some questions, and you'll meet tons of partners and other streamers just like yourself, not only talking about Streamloots, but sharing a bunch of their content creation tips. I highly recommend joining it. Link will be down in the description below. But that's going to do it for us today. I hope you guys did enjoy, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.